Get started. Welcome, everybody. It's Friday. Today is last day of our weekly list sessions. Remember, tomorrow we're going to take off so that you will have a chance to hopefully inculcate. Is that the word? Start putting everything together that we've learned over the last week or two or three. Who knows how long we've been at this now? And hi, Diane. Hi, Minette. Welcome in. As all of you know, I set everything up for various levels, right? And whatever level is working for you is the right level. And then whatever level is working for you, then you want to push that a little bit into the next level. And so every piece of paper that I put out always has multiple ways of approaching it. And all of it is generally, I try to make it where you can take this instrument and play it in as many ways as humanly possible. Sometimes it is strumming. Sometimes it is plucking one note at a time. Sometimes it's plucking multiple notes at a time. And sometimes it's sitting around with your friends and dividing up the parts and playing all of the parts. And so my goal, honestly, is just to give you lots of access points into music. And the fact that we're using this is lovely. This is a great instrument, by the way. But the skill sets and the thinking behind it and the musician routine and all that behind it, that's what really matters, right? Because ukulele may be your lifelong instrument, but you may find 6 years down the road or 6 months down the road that really you were born a bagpiper, or maybe you're into saxophone, or maybe you're into piano or whatever it is, and then you might these skills that you're learning here transfer right over to any of those other instruments. Also, I just think it makes you a more knowledgeable person. We'll get a lot of people who are, hey, they just want to pick up a new hobby for a while or maybe for the rest of their lives. And I think this particular method that, playing from tablature and trying to put chords and melody together at the same time, that's a high level activity that's going to involve your full brain. Those of you guys that are just getting started on tough uke, you're going to be using 100% of your mental capacity to get that sound out of this ukulele. Whether it's Three Blind Mice or, the Minuet that we're working on, all of that requires, your full attention to really making it as good as you can. And I think the other thing that's important is when we talk about as good as you can, we really mean that, as good as you can. It's not really about how good I can do it. It's not about how good Jake Shimabukuro can do it. We're lovely people, but it's all really at this point in the world of music, it should no longer be about this, putting people on a pedestal with music. It's about us making music as a community, and hopefully that's hopefully that motivates you a little bit. I know it does me. Let's say hi to a few more people. Hi, Mary. Welcome in. Claire, glad to see you. Mike logging in from 6 blocks that way. Patty, welcome in. Hey, Barb, good to see you. So, we're going to start with Three Blind Mice. Let's review the Heike. We're going to review the basic things that at this point should be part of who you are. Okay. So first of all, tuning, right? G, C, E, A. Check your tuning against mine. We got good sound today. G, C, E, A. One more time. George Clooney eats apples. Hi, Mark and Lori. Glad you made it in. Hi, Kari. One last time for just double check. G, C, E, A. Okay. And make sure if you don't own one already that you get one of these. It's $17-18 on Amazon. Or from me, or get one of these. You want this snark? It's called a Super Tight HZ. It's their best one, and it costs the most. And you owe it to yourself. If you are sitting in this classroom, you owe it to yourself to get the good snark. And that cheap one that came with your ukulele, it's going to break. Use that until it breaks, but it's not accurate, and it will break. And so, and it'll eat through batteries like bananas. So just get rid of it and get a good one. Next thing is your ukulele. It doesn't matter what ukulele you own. The one that's in your hand is the right one right now. What I find is that people automatically know when it's time to upgrade, and whatever one you have in your lap is the right ukulele. And then there'll come a day when all of a sudden you're playing pretty well, and your ukulele is just not able to keep up with you, and that's the time that you're going to be thinking, I should get a new ukulele. But until then, this one's good enough. Whatever one is you happen to have. How we hold the ukulele, again, make sure the back of the ukulele is up against your sweatshirt. If you have a zipper, right, you don't want to be putting it up against the zipper. You'll be digging lots of little marks in the back of your ukulele, and that's not ideal. Unless you're treating your ukulele like it's a museum piece, and then in which case I recommend going and grabbing a pair of scissors and just running a big old scratch across the back and getting that part over with. Once you get your first scratch on your ukulele, you can officially treat it as a musical instrument instead of a museum piece, and that's what this is. Unless your grandfather gave you his 1927 Martin ukulele, what you're holding in your hand is temporary, and you shouldn't get emotionally involved in how awesome it is. Just play the darn thing. Up against your bod, 60-degree angle. Don't let yourself be playing down here. It's going to make your life harder down the road. I was working with one of my young students earlier today over the internet, and he's killing it. He's just absolutely an amazing player, and doing all these really crazy chords all the way down here, and there is no possible way for you to do that if this is down here. You're going to end up with all this really rough fingering, and it's just not ideal at all. So make sure this is a habit that you get into. And then the last important habit, pad of your thumb, back of the neck. I don't see your thumb. I don't see this ever. Never, 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 never. Pad of your thumb is hanging out here. It's right in the light up there. Okay. Pad of your thumb is back here, perpendicular. More or less perpendicular to the neck, right? If you go this way a little bit, it's not the end of the world. But we do want that running right along that area there, and it's going to be hanging out right behind your middle finger. That's where it's going to be hanging out, right there, just sliding up and down all day long. Wherever your middle finger is, that's where your thumb is. If you can get those postural things correct, the only other postural thing I talk about is most of the time you are sitting in your kitchen, leaning over the kitchen table, trying to play your music, and that's going to kill your back. It's going to make your neck hurt, going to hurt your shoulders, the whole deal. So I really do recommend you get a real music stand and use that for when you're playing. I just think it's going to make your posture and your playing time a lot more pleasant. Okay, I think that's the basic stuff. Hopefully we won't talk about that any next week. How about that? Okay, well, we'll talk about your thumb and how to hold the ukulele and how to tune it, and that you ought to get a music stand every single day. All right, let's move on to Three Blind Mice. First thing I like to do when I'm tackling a piece of paper is obviously get it where I can see it. This piece of paper says Three Blind Mice, Rocky Mountain Ukulele Orchestra. It still says Ukulele Orchestra. I've been trying to change them all to JollyRogerUkulele.com. And Thomas Ravensclaw, 1609. Okay, old song that we're dealing with here. The next thing I look at, I got a baritone chord up there. Some of you might own baritone. Some of you might be thinking about getting a baritone. I recommend, especially for people with gigantic hands, that they switch to baritone. The biggest challenge with baritone, I take it seriously. I think I'm one of the very few people in the country that does. Well, that makes me one of the few people on the planet that does. But I do think the baritone ukulele has some real benefits. It plays like a ukulele, but it sounds kind of like a guitar. And so it's this real nice mixture between the two. The downside to baritone ukulele is there's way, way, way less material for it. So any kind of advanced material that you're going to get for baritone probably is going to be written by me, and so you're sort of stuck with me for your musical career, at least up until you're writing your own music. But they are lovely instruments. They're very cheap. They sound pretty nice, and they're easy to play. So that's another thing for you to put in your maybe someday cap. And the baritone chords are identical to our chords on ukulele. The only difference is that when you play this chord, that's a C chord. On a baritone, that's a G chord. Okay, so it has a different name, but it's the same shape. Quarter note equals 120. That's the speed we're going to play this at. Probably not in these types of situations when we're learning to play something. We play stuff at half speed, maybe at 80, something like that. 120 is what I consider normal. Most pop songs are written at about 105. So 120 is kind of in that range, right? Just sort of a normal speed, whatever normal means in music. Next thing I look at, I've got some quarter notes, I got some half notes, I got a pretty livable situation with all of my standard notation. If you're new to music and you've never had any standard notation, I say this all the time, you don't care about that, right? We don't need you to know how to read standard notation. We will eventually talk about how long each of those is, because in the tablature part that we read doesn't tell us how long to hold a note, but the standard notation does. Pretty important for us in that regard. Other than that, we don't necessarily have to read that line, which is really nice. The ukulele line is the line we're going to read for most new people, and then today our real focus will be on that tough uke line, or it's popularly known as chord melody or finger style, and both of those terms have some real challenges with them. Tough uke is very clear, right? It's short and it's small, and you have to be tough to do it, and it's kind of tough to do. So I think it's the perfect phrase for what we're actually going to undertake. Let's see, who else logged in here? Linda, hey. Joy, Joyce is here today. Excellent. Hi, Melody. I got your email. I'm going to get back to you. All right, let's start with the chord. C chord is always your ring finger. Okay, right there on first fret, third fret, first string. Okay, and that's ukulele player's homeland. That white light is exactly in the wrong spot for you guys. Let me see if I can make a minor adjustment to that so I can get my hands out of the light. All right. Now, when you are first starting ukulele, you learn C chord, and you would very much like that to be the only C chord you ever have to deal with, but you should know there are plenty of C chords on a ukulele. There's one. You can cover both of those strings. You get a different flavor of a C chord. You also could take that and then put your pinky up on 7. You get a nice C chord there. Okay. For those of you who found B flat the other day and fell in love with it, you take a B flat and slide it up to 3. That's also a C chord. Fascinating point of trivia. The standard notation for this shape and the standard notation for this shape are identical. Okay, that's why standard notation fails us on fretted instruments, especially one with reentrant tuning. Okay, there's also a lovely one up on 7. You put the F shape on here, and then when we get to the minuet, we're going to be messing around with that shape a little bit. So C chords all over the place. When you first start, you want this one to be the only one, and we all wish it was the only one too. But we have lots more on your ukulele, lots more, many that I didn't even talk about. So just know this is a C chord. It's a lovely C chord, and it's what we're going to be playing with this one. I'm about to sing. You're about to strum. I'm told that this is the note I am looking for. Okay, I'm trying not to be a lazy listener, is what I was told would help my singing, and so I believe you, Kathy. Okay, we're going to do, the reason we're going to do 4 strums per measure is on your sheet music at measure 1, it says 4/4. The top number is the one that matters. That's how many beats there are in every measure is 4, and the lower number we don't talk about. It makes things sad. Okay, so the upper number says 4, so we're going to do 4 strums per measure. When you're talking about strumming, don't think there's one right answer. So we could do thumb down, and again, right where your body and the neck come together. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a beautiful strum. That strum has gotten me through, what am I on, 18, 19 years of ukulele. It works. It's just fine. Okay, next one is take your index finger. Make sure the face of your nail is pointed toward the ground and not toward the head of the ukulele. Down, up, down, up, down, up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's another one. Next level players, you're taking 4 fingers, 4 strings, thumb on the, see if I can get this where you can see it, thumb, index, middle, ring. Make sure that these are at an angle so that they don't run into one another. Okay, you start with that system by plucking 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you get comfy with that, you've got lots of choices. So you could do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. You could do it the opposite direction. 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2. Da 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you can do that. The other one that I do a lot is I just drop my thumb down to the third string, index on the second string, and middle finger on the first string. Hard to get the lighting just right for you to see that. And then I'm going to do a 4 pattern with these guys doing thumb, index, middle, index, thumb, index, middle, index. Da 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 da. 1, 2, 3, 4. And notice I'm not letting my hand fly all around and jump around. I'm trying to keep it really anchored on the ukulele. So I'm not chasing my hand around it also. I'm just trying to get my fingers where they're on autopilot and just doing what they need to do. So those are different basic ways to handle your right hand. As you wander the internet, they're going to talk about strum patterns all over the place. And it's important to know it's singers that are teaching you that, not necessarily ukulele players. Ukulele players have fallen into that because they want to help people learn to sing along with a steady beat. And so they come up with these interesting strum patterns. In instrumental ukulele, we do a tiny bit of strumming, but really mostly we just get rid of that altogether. It's fun, but it's not going to get you the real high level stuff that we need to do. Okay, all right, let's play this song. I'm going to sing. That's my first note. There's my first note. You pick your strum pattern. We're going to go all the way down the bottom. Then we're going to back up and play it a second time. Whatever's way you strum it the first time, I want you to switch when we get to the bottom, and then we're going to go and do a different pattern, whatever you want to do. The other thing to note, those of you who are used to this song, it goes real fast through the middle. And on the paper here, I arranged it nice and slow because of our next activity. So don't rush when we get to the middle of the song. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all went after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Have you ever seen such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice to the top and 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. See how they run, see how they run. They all went after the farmer's wife. She cut off their tails with a carving knife. Have you ever seen such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice? Okay. When you go to a strum along or get together with other ukulele players and they're busy doing this, that's a great way to just sort of jazz things up, make things a little bit more interesting for everybody, is to come up with better and smarter right hand patterns. And I've told you guys this before. When I have been in various strum alongs, I don't go very often anymore, but when I do, I always am busy just messing around with my right hand, doing different stuff, and then almost inevitably there will be somebody sitting next to me going, "Boy, your ukulele sounds really nice." Well, I'm probably playing a $50 ukulele. I don't necessarily take my best ones to that stuff, and it's not the ukulele, it's my right hand that's sounding really good. So do that. So be practicing with that. Don't give yourself permission to do lots of experimentation. All right, now we like the chord pattern on this song, right? The chord progression on this song is, we can live with it, right? It's pretty nice setup. C, then to C goes to C. Second line is a lot of C's, and then the last line is also a lot of C's. So we can live with that as a chord progression. Let's talk about the melody now. We are now in multiple days. If you're brand new walking in here, you really want to go listen to the Frere Jacques discussion. Otherwise, I'm going to just count on the fact that you maybe can do this now, right? Okay, so we're going to be playing this string, this string, and this string. We won't have any use for the top string yet. Okay, so these string 3, 2, and 1 we're going to be busy. I recommend when you're learning to pluck melody is that you just use your thumb because it just eliminates one other thing. Those of you who are next level, those of you who've been around a while, these are your 2 fingers. Index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle. And you're going to be thinking through string crossings, which is actually a very advanced skill, is getting your string crossings correct. And sometimes that's easy to just go from this one to this one, but sometimes it's not, and you'll see. Okay, so you're thinking about plucking straight melody with these two fingers. All of you are thinking, if it's a 1, I'm going to use the index finger. If it's a 2, I'm going to use my middle finger. If it's a 3, I'm going to use my ring finger. And there are no other notes on this. So those 3 fingers need to be locked in and absolutely part of what we do. You want to get where that is such a part of who you are that you do it in your sleep, because as the music gets more complex and as the speed of the music gets going faster and faster, you really are going to want to have some stuff on autopilot. And that's one of those things that all of our advanced players have on autopilot. That's just what happens. They don't even think about it. Okay, let's go from the top. We're going to play through it twice, nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. O, 2, O, O, 2, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, O, 2, O, back to the top. O, 2, O, O, 2, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, O, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 1, O, 2, O. Let the ukulele ring out. Okay, and then we're done. Smooth and slow is better than fast and choppy. Okay, so if you were going along pretty well and then you crash somewhere, that may just be an issue of, hey, I need to work on that one spot. But if you're crashing lots of places and the whole thing's sort of a big fight all the way through it, then slow the whole thing down and go back and try working that at a much slower space. It's Friday. I can't talk anymore. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Fran is mentioning that her snark has a little metronome in it. Metronomes are a mixed blessing, right? Metronomes take all the fun out of music, but they do make you a better player. I don't recommend people using metronome until they're ready to memorize a piece. And once they have it memorized, then we bring in a metronome to double check that your timing is about right. If you use a metronome too early in the process, it turns it into wood, and it's just not. I don't think it's particularly musical. I think there is a purpose for a metronome, and I usually say there is a time and a place for a metronome. It's not here, and it's not now. Usually, the time I recommend using a metronome is at the end of a piece when you've got the whole thing memorized. You think you got the timing right, and then just go use that as a quality check to make sure you really got what you think you have. Yep. Hey, Bob, welcome. All right. That's the stuff that at this point should be making sense. How to make a C chord, how to play a melody. If that's making sense, you're ready for tough uke. Okay, you're ready to become a ukulele instrumentalist, and that's where we turn our voices off and let the ukulele do all the singing. This is where we combine everything. On this song, Three Blind Mice, you're going to play with these fingers exactly note for note what we just played. The only difference is that you're now going to take your thumb and strum down until you hit that note. Okay, so the first note is a 0, and on the tough uke you'll see it's 0, 0, 0. So we're going to do that. Okay, hi Linda, hi Chris. Just go down. The most important piece of learning that we have today, and we've talked about it in some of the other classes, is rest stroke. So your First note on here, your first thing you have to do is 0, 0, 0. You're going to take the thumb, go down. It's physically, literally, absolutely going to hit that first string and rest on it and treat it as if it's hanging out on a hammock. Okay, it's going to rest on the first string. Two reasons we do that. Number one, there's no possible way it can accidentally go off, right? That's going to solve one problem. And two, when we're coming down and we're resting, it has this tendency to hit that string right above it a little bit harder, and then it's going to bring that out. And that's actually going to be where the melody's sitting. Okay, so it has this tendency to bring it up just a little bit. So I would say when you are working on your rest stroke, when you're working on this song generally, the rest stroke is probably the real message behind this song, although I think it's learning how to play chord melody. So either of those tools to walk away from is very important. If you are a next level player and you're like, I can play Three Blind Mice, I'm so awesome, you're going to be working on doing this. Okay, you're going to be playing these with 3 or possibly 4 fingers. Okay, so you're going to read the sheet music. You're going to be far enough ahead of me. Sometimes you're going to pluck 2, sometimes you're going to pluck 3, and sometimes you're going to pluck 4. Okay, again, that's for those of you who are looking for some way to make Three Blind Mice interesting. Okay, and if you're really all that, okay, pluck, add, pluck, add. So between your notes, you're going to add in a piece of another note. Okay, just to decorate the heck out of the thing, so that every single measure is just full of eighth notes. That would be top level. That would be officially finger style type playing. Okay, but for the rest of us, for us mere mortals that are hanging slung, we're just going to use our thumb down. Okay, so the first one is 0, 0, 0. Let's do that. Then we got a 0, 2, and then 0, 0. Next measure is the same. 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0. Next one is 3, 1, 1, 0. 3, 1, 1, 0. 3, 1, 1, 0. 3. And then we're going to go down to the 4th string, and we're going to play a couple of C chords, and then we're going to move our finger a little bit. Strum, strum. Put your 2 on. Strum. All the zeros. 2 back on. 3 on the 1st string. Then bunny hop it to the 2nd string and play 3 of those. Bunny hop to the 1st string. Hit the 2. Play it open. Play a 2. Hit the 3. Bunny hop to the other 3. Bunny hop to the 1st 3. Into all opens. Into 2. Hit a 3. Bunny hop. Go to grab your 1. Into all zeros. Hit 0, 2. And hit it opens. Okay, that's what we're looking for. So all we're doing is just thumb down on everything. We're just playing the melody like we already played it, but because it's a C chord, it's all zeros anyway, and so we're just going to be happy as a clam doing that. Leon from Germany. Welcome. Glad you're here. Let's see. Bardia Sultan Mohammadi. Welcome. Leon was here yesterday, I think, and he's in Germany. So very exciting. We're international now. We have a couple Canadians who've been logging in as well. So we're spreading the ukulele instrumental love, right? All right, let's do the whole song. We're going to go all the way to the bottom. We're going to repeat, play it twice, and then that's going to be our plan for Three Blind Mice. Okay, this is your big moment. We're going to play it twice for no other reason than it'll make it longer. Okay. Hi, Bonnie from Salida. 1, 2, 3, 4. Strum, O2, strum, strum, O2, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, 1, 1, O, 3, bunny hop. Bunny hop. Okay. If that's making sense to you, welcome. You've arrived. Okay. Big thing is not whether you did a great job today. The big thing is whether you know what you're supposed to do. Okay. And so be practicing it this weekend. You got all day tomorrow to just kill it with 3 blind mice. And here's your goal. When you're playing 3 blind mice and you're on the 300th time through, and one of your family members comes up and they say, man, the way you were playing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star is really beautiful. You will know that that is the moment when you need to practice a little bit more, because they're not supposed to say that. I have had that happen more than one time in my classes where somebody comes in devastated. Yeah, I was playing Frere Jacques and they thought it was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. All they know is that you're playing what is supposed to be a kid's song, and they just assume it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. What we're really focused in on is it's not the song. Who cares what the song is? The song is the toolbox, right? And so the toolbox is moving your hand melodically while you're then adding in the chord underneath it. As we go through all of next week, the chord structure gets more interesting. The melodies get a little more interesting. We take you up to a certain level, and then we turn you into, and then we turn you loose on society. So hopefully that's making sense. Obviously, if it doesn't, you send me an email, right? And then let's make sure that I haven't said something that's completely nutty. One of you sent me an email. I had talked about rock power chords yesterday, and that if you hold this and you do this, it's a G chord with a C in the bass. When I'm talking about rock power chords, I'm talking about chords that only have a first and a fifth in it. So if you take your typical piano chord, C, D, E, F, G, you would take 1, 3, and 5. So on a rock power chord, it would be C, not the D, not the E, not the F, but the G, okay, C and G. So a lot of times, especially younger players, we teach them this in electric guitar a lot, where you'll give them a C and a G, and they'll fret it just a certain way, and you only get C's and G's. And then that sounds amazing when it comes through your amplifier, because you don't have a third in there confusing the amplifier with different information. And so if you did a D chord, it'd be D, E, F, G, A. So you'd put your D and your A, and you would create a chord that only includes D's and A's, and then you have that rock power chord in there. And there's fingerings out there for every single important chord, and it's just a way of getting rid of other pieces of information that the amplifier is not sure really how to handle, and it just really tightens up what the harmonics and then all this stuff that goes through the amplifier. Again, if you're not plugging in, you don't need to worry about what a power chord is. And frankly, it kind of dumbs down music just a little bit in order to make it sound awesome. And so knowing what power chords are it's kind of interesting. Needing to do them on ukulele is not important. Needing to do them ever is really not that important. All right, let's see. Who else is logged in here? Leon and Leslie, German discussion, and Susan. Hi, Gary. Everybody, welcome. Okay, so everybody's here. Again, questions for me? Just toss me an email. I'm looking kind of bright on this side. The light's changing as the sun is moving around. Let's get into Minuet. That's what most of you guys are here for. This particular day is the hard one. Okay, hopefully you had a chance to take this and look at it and be like, oh my god, what did he do? Okay, so let's go through it. Let's go through, solve a lot of problems here, create a few more. You've got to really have your game face on for this one. Everything's gone pretty smoothly up until this moment, right? So first thing that you know when you're dealing with this part 4, you're starting off with a B flat. Okay, and we've talked about this earlier in the week, probably, or last week or some point. Most ukulele players are going to do a partial bar here. They're going to do a middle finger here, ring finger here. That's what most of us are going to do. Okay, I would rather, if you're still working on your B flats, to have you use a full bar here. Okay, and so what we're looking for is this with and these two in front. Okay. B flat is really just an A chord. It's really just your A chord. You've moved it up and added a bar. Okay, so now you're at B flat. This will turn out to be helpful when you want to play a C chord, which is on 3, or a D chord, which is on 5. It's sitting on 5, right? And an E chord sitting up here on 7. Okay, so that shape becomes movable once you have a full bar on it. Now, in this case, by covering those two, you do technically have a full bar on because you've covered everything up. It is movable, but you're going to have other bar chords coming up. So if you can work on making a full bar, then when you get the F-shaped bar chord, which is coming in this song, you're all set for it. Okay, and that one slides up. Okay, we don't have one in this chord. Oh, we do have one in this piece. The C-shaped bar chord. You got your C chord on here. You slide it up, add your bar. Now that's going to ride up here, and sitting right here on fret 5 is an F chord. Okay, and all over the internet, they're all trying to figure out how not to play E chord. It's sitting right there, just pretty as all get out, and very useful. D chord here. Okay, and then C chord back here. So if you use a full bar, you have the ability to play the F shape, the A shape, and the C shape, and not do anything other than get good at holding this bar down. Those of you will fight the bar when you're brand new. You'll fight it. It's just what we do. If you don't fight it, then we don't like you. Okay, so the bar, generally speaking, I start at least teaching it anyway, putting your hand on top of the metal thing and then rolling it back just a little bit. That's going to tighten everything up. It's going to be nice and solid and tight along there, so you can get a clean sound out of it. When you first start, this is the sound you should be prepared to make. Okay, that's how your bar chord sounds when you first start. That is what I expect it to sound like. It's what you should feel very comfortable with it sounding like. That's just what it does in the beginning, and then as you get stronger. Okay. And the other thing I'm supposed to tell you is don't squeeze real hard. That's not what we're after. Yeah, in the beginning you have to squeeze really, really hard because you don't quite have that muscle structure yet to do that. And so now that I've been doing it a long time and I got my ukulele set up perfectly and the right string, blah, 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 I'm not squeezing that hard to make that. But in the beginning, and especially if you've got a lower price ukulele with not so great strings on, boy, you got to press like bananas to get that to work. And so just know that B flat's a thing that you will work on, forever. Okay. All right. Next chord is an F chord. Most of you, that's fine. We'll go on. Measure 7. You have a C minor. I usually just use a partial bar on it. Okay, that's what I like to do. Okay. And in this case, when we get to tough uke, we're going to have our pinky up on 6. Okay, so we're going to need to do it that way. Measure 10. You have a lovely G7. Remember that from the hotel class when you went to Hawaii and they said come down to the lobby and learn how to play ukulele. That's the G they teach you there. Okay. Measure 11 has an E flat. Okay, that's a bar on 3, pinky on 6. Okay, that's an E flat. In most of your chord charts, you have a different E flat. You have this one, okay, but we're not going to be able to use that in this case because we need all 3 of these notes followed by the 6. Okay, so we're going to use this E flat shape. Measure 12 has no chord above it on purpose. Okay, I put on half a dozen different chords and I decided none of them really worked very well there. It's a very chromatic. By chromatic, I mean it's got all sorts of crazy extra notes in there that don't necessarily fit in the key. Anytime you see sharps or flats floating around in your measure, you're going to be like, oh boy, now I got to figure out what chord it is. One of you will send me an email as to what the exact chord is that's going on there. I think it's a G augmented, I think is what it is. But it doesn't really matter. We're not going to put a chord on there because we're going to be more than busy enough playing the rest of it. D chord, measure 13. That's how you know if you have the right size ukulele. Index, middle, and ring. And this is not the right size ukulele for me because I'm barely fitting into that. Okay, and so that's how you know. If you're a grown-up, you should probably have a tenor. Okay, probably. This is a concert size. It's just not quite big enough for most full-size hands. And then we wrap up at measure 17 with the G minor chord, okay, which we learned yesterday. Index, middle, ring. Okay, those are your chords. Now, there are no lyrics here, so you can't sing it. The only reason we cover the chords is if you go with and hang out with one of your friends and you say, hey, why don't you play the chords and I'm going to play the melody line and let's see if we can make this work out. That's much more friendly and much more delightful to do that as a metronome, is play with somebody else, and that way everybody has to play together and you get to laugh and drink and have a good time. That's exactly why I give you always the chords and the melody if I can. Not always, most of the time. And we want you to be able to strum while somebody plays a melody. And like today, if you are not set up to play melody, strum these chords while we're working on the melody. If you're working on melody, which is what we all should be working on all of the time, you will play less and less and less chords, and it's not that it's unimportant. The playing chords is also very important, and so I want you to always be like thinking, which is not typical of most ukulele players. They're like, I'm going to go find a song that doesn't have any B flats in it. That's how most ukulele players think. You, as an instrumentalist, don't get that luxury. Whatever the chords are, that's what they are, and that's what you're going to play. So in this case, it starts with the B flat. You don't like B flat. I don't like B flat. Nobody likes B flat, but that's what it starts with, so that's what we're going to play. And so I think those of you who run strum-along groups, you're running yourself ragged, right? Looking for songs that don't have B flats in them, and you're busy rewriting songs that everybody in the ukulele industry has rewritten, hoping to minimize the number of chords and make it fun for newer players. So it's just mind-numbing experience. What you really want, and when you're running these strumming groups, is to be working with your groups to make this transition to where, yeah, you still strum, but you're also really working on those next level skills where people don't lose their minds when they see 7, 8 chords on this piece of paper, and some of them are kind of hard, right? And you want your strum group to be that group. That way you have to spend way less time trying to find songs that are playable. All right. Those are the chords. Make sure you're practicing them. Way you practice chords when you don't necessarily is go get the MP3 off the website and play it. And you're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So when you're listening to the MP3, play along with the chords. That's a great opportunity to get those chords in good shape. The other thing, and I forgot to post it on there, I'm going to put a little note under the widget about how to slow those MP3s down. There's both for Android and iPhone, there is a app you can put on there called Tempo Slow, and you can take the MP3, slow it down, but it keeps it in the same pitch, so that if the MP3 is too fast, you can slow it down and work on getting your chords in place that way. All right. And by the way, important note on this chord structure, all these chords are coming up in your life as an instrumentalist, every single one. 2 of my local people here, Kari and Bob, both have already sent me emails about different fingering they've come up with on this thing. And I think that's where you want to be, right? You want to be like, Gary sent out this piece of paper, but I think you should do the fingering this way or that way or another way. And that's where you want to get, right? Is where you're taking this piece of information and turning it into something that works for you. All right, let's play the melody. Okay, when I'm looking at measure 1, I'm seeing 5s, I'm seeing a 7, I'm seeing an 8 sitting up there, and I still have I have a 1 in here. So I'm all the way from here to here. So that's not particularly pleasant. So what I'm probably going to do is be thinking about, I'm probably going to try to start with my middle finger on 3. That gives me a chance to get the 1 down, and then my pinky is going to be 5, and then I'm going to probably as soon as I possibly can. When I get that second 5, I'm probably going to go to 5th position. 5, 7, 8, 3, 0. So that's probably what I'm going to do. Now, as soon as I say that and we start to actually play it, who knows what's going to happen. But that's my general thought, is the last half of measure 2 there. No, I didn't change the measure numbers for you guys. Sorry. I want to be in 5th position so I can get to 7 and 8 without thinking. Okay, then I'll drop back to 3, and I'll be in 1st position for a while. Then when we get to the end of measure 6, again, we're going up the fretboard. So again, I'm probably going to go into 5th position. I got a 5, a 6, a 5. I'll have to slide down to get the 3, and then I'm going to have to use my pinky to get that. Okay, so we got a lot going on there, a lot of opportunity to blow it. Okay, I for sure want to know where my 8th fret is on my ukulele, because that's the one that's going to be the one that I miss. At 5s and 6s, I'm going to be fine with if I'm in 5th position. The other challenging moment in this song is at measure 12. There's no chord there, and you're going to make 3, 5, 2, 3, 3, 1. Okay, so that's going to be challenging. 3, 5, 2, 3, 3, 1, oh. So it's all wonky. The first two notes, probably 3 and 5 there. And then I'm probably going to slide back 2, 3. And the problem is then I got to get a 3 on right after that 3 and that 3. So I might think about grabbing that with grabbing both of them with one finger. Okay, so you're thinking through your strategy for how is best for you. And there aren't right answers in that, guys. There's better answers and not better answers. And so you have to practice. If you blow it, you go back and you figure out, what did I do wrong? The last thing I want to talk about, measure 16. Okay, measure 16 has a 1, a 3, a 5, and then the 3 on the second string. Okay, if you look up at the standard notation, those are 16th notes. That means they're twice as fast as the 8th notes that you have been playing. Not only that, but they come in after measure 15, which is quarter note, quarter note, quarter note, 8th, ba-da-bum. So it's going to be really, really fast through that section. Normally, very little ukulele music should have 16th notes on it. We just can't really play them. That's the biggest problem. And I have advanced players who tell me, yep, we can play it, no problem. We can absolutely play it, but they can't, and because it just goes by too fast. And so what we got to do is be mindful when we get into measures 15 and 16, we want to be playing at a pace where that's going to be successful. So if we go too fast in 15, we're going to blow it in 16. So really be thinking about when you have music with 16th notes sitting somewhere in it. You want the rest of the song to be particularly slow so that you have some chance of getting it. In fact, we have a rule now in the orchestra: you can't put a 16th note in there unless you can prove you really, really need it. And we got a few of our writers who fight that like crazy. Like, nope, we must have 16th notes, and you usually don't. Okay, I left them in here to give you something to work on this weekend. Okay, all right, we're gonna play the melody. We're gonna try it twice through. And again, as always, you guys are counting on me to sort of set the pace. And this is a pretty tough song, so maybe I'll be successful, maybe I won't. All right, let's go through from the top. We're going to start on 5. I'm going to count in 3, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3. 5, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 3, 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 0, 3, 0, 1, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 5, 6, 5, 3, 8, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 6, 5, 6, 3, 5, 2, 3, 3, 1, 0, 0, 3, 2, 0, 2, 0, 2, 3, 0, 1, 3, 1, 0, 1, 3, 5, 3, 2, 3, 3, 1 to the top. 5, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 3, 0, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 0, 3, 0, 1, 1, 3, 0, 1, 3, 5, 6, 5, 3, 8, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, 6, 5, 6, 3, 5, 2, 3, 3, 1, 0, 0, 3, 2, 0, 2, 0, 2, 3, 0, 1, 3, 1, 3. How'd we do? I hacked it out okay, right? Not too many mistakes. Again, careful finger choices before you get started to make sure that that's going smoothly for you, and always being willing to adjust your fingering as the speed of the sound starts. The camera keeps bouncing around. Sorry, if I'll sit still, it will stop being out of focus. Maybe if you are finding that you get stuck, like you're playing pretty well, but you keep getting stuck in a spot, you're probably making some weird fingering choices. So rethink them a little bit and say, all right, I keep getting stuck at this one spot. Let me try some other fingering choices. Again, with fingering, we have some general rules, like we like to play positionally, but that doesn't necessarily always solve all of your problems. And so as you're playing through, once you can play it through fairly smoothly at a slow speed, as you start to speed up, oftentimes some of these really wise and beautiful fingerings you came up with at a slower speed won't necessarily work at a higher speed. So keep working on that particular line. Again, the reason why you want to work on that line is you want to get a friend to play the chords. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You knock out the melody. All of a sudden you're a genius, right? And that's both of those particular ideas are playable. Of the two, by far, the harder part to tackle is the chords. And I would say that's one of those things that if you're coming from a chord background, that's one of those things that we don't really tell you is playing chords is way harder than playing melodies. So now let's put them together so we have all of the hard stuff all in one place. Okay, so let's move on to the tough uke. How we doing on time? Ooh, we're about to wrap it up. All right, running late. All right, with this one, guys, this is really, really beautiful or brutal. Let me talk through a couple of things. Measure 1. You hated B flat this way. Now we have to do it with a bar on 5 and an F shape in front. Okay, that's gonna be something that's gonna probably take you a while to make that smooth. Once you go there, I've got it as dropping back into the regular melody. 1, 3, 5, 7. That's what I fingered. Now you can probably come up with some other choices around here, and you might mess around with that. But I think for me, makes a lot of sense. Okay, I lose the sound of the chord because I've got to pull out that bar, and it's possible to find some of those same notes up here where you wouldn't have to pull those bar off. But I don't know. Okay, next thing, measure 5. You've got measure 3. You got a bar on 5, pinky on 8. Okay, and that's going to be there. And then you got a couple melody notes, 3, oh, and then a regular B flat at measure 4. And then you're going to put your 3. That 3 is going to have to be your pinky. Got an F chord at measure 6. And then you got some melody run here. Measure 7, you want to put a partial bar on just your regular 3 C minor. Make sure you leave this top string open, and then your pinky's going to be on 5. I'm sorry, 6. I'm going to put it on 6. Then I would go to 5. Don't lift up your bar, just hit the 3. Hardest part of the song here, measure 8. You're going to put that bar in that B flat shape on again, bar on 5, F shape in front of it, and then your pinky's going to sit up here on 8. That's the hardest moment in the song. Okay, that's the note you're looking for. If it's too hard to hit that, if this is not going to happen for you at your whatever level of development you are on, just play the 8. Okay, lose the rest of the chord. Just play that 8. It'll be fine. Coming out of that 3. Okay, right? Just drop the whole thing and just play the 8. The top number, whatever note is on the top of your tablature, that's the one that matters because that's the melody note. Okay, let's see. Measure 9 is a B flat, 1, O, and then when you get to measure 10, the chord is a G7, but the melody is a G note, so you might as well just put on a G chord there. Okay, and then you got your 5, 3, 5, E flat. There's a bar on 3, strum 6, 5, 6. You got this weird little melody thing here. 3, 5, 2, 3, 3, 1, and then you got a D chord with your pinky on 5. Okay, you're going to do that. And then remember, you got to get off that 5 to a 0. 3, 2, 0, 2, nice C minor here. 1, O, B flat chord. That's going to be challenging right there. And then finish on G minor. I'd say probably thinking through your fingering on 16 will probably be a good hour, half hour's worth of work there. Trying to figure out how to make that work and keep your 16th note together. Okay? And that's a lot of pinky motion. Maybe abandon the chord and play the 3-5 and get your ring finger there. All of those are possibilities. You decide what works for you. And again, if it's too hard, just play 1. Okay, do that. Measure 10. You should show a G7 that has a regular G shape. I show a G7 because G7 is correct. If you're playing with another person, Bob, you do want that person to play a G7. But Tough Axe is a solo activity, right? So you're not playing Tough Axe with other people. So you are getting the G7, but the G note is the melody note. And so it sort of eliminates the G7-ness of it all. And so, again, Tough Uke doesn't necessarily follow the chords. Most of the time it does. 80-90% of the time it does. But you have plenty of opportunity for to have to make compromises, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. This is one of those cases where you sort of lose the G7-ness based on what's going on with the melody. Realize also on the original version, Bach, or not Bach, Pitzold had a counterpoint melody running along underneath this too. And when I have the classroom edition of this meant for multiple players, we'll include that back in there. And then that's where the F note shows up for the G7. All right. Kind of a complicated discussion. All right, I want to play it top to bottom. We're going to skip measure 17 when we get to the bottom. Just remember, the first time through, you do hold that G minor, 3, 1, and then that's going to take you back up to the top. But we're out of time, so what I want to do is just play it one time through from top to bottom, and then we'll see how we do. Okay, so get your first chord on. It's a B flat on 5, F shape on 5. Go. You see how slow I'm playing it? I wrote it this morning, right? I'm playing it that slow. You should be playing it that slow too until you make sure your fingering makes sense. Okay, couple of administrative things. Number one, we have tomorrow off, so use that time to play through whatever it is you're working on. Later on tonight, hopefully, I'm going to post all 4 pieces put together in one giant thing. My plan on Sunday is just to play through this whole Bach piece top to bottom in 2 or 3 or 20 times, however much time we have. Along with those of you who are newer players, I can't remember the next thing on the list that we'll be doing, but I'll post that as well, so that you can be working on that. Don't be a ukulele player when it comes to this type of music. Don't be thinking that your next song is the good one, right? What's in your book right now is the good song. Work on that stuff. Everything's posted at jollyrogerukulele.com. If you didn't go over there yet, to just wander around there. I edit these videos and post, and YouTube automatically saves them. So if you need to go back and double check anything we've talked about, if I ever say something crazy that makes no sense, just send me an email and let me know. And then additionally, For those of you guys that are either really struggling or you're like, hey, I totally get this, I want to go to the next level, I want to move faster, send me an email. We can set up Zoom lessons for you privately. I'm cheap. And I hope you guys have a wonderful Friday night and Saturday. The news keeps getting eviler and eviler, so just honest to God, you guys stay inside. We don't just play ukulele. Go hang out with your family. Do a puzzle. Do something. I don't know. Mighty challenging. I'll be busy. Yeah, Louise, this is really top level stuff. So just know if you're struggling with it, you should be. It's hard. I know how to play this stuff, and I'm struggling with it. So have a wonderful weekend, you guys. I will see you Sunday night, 4:30 Mountain Standard Time. We'll play through the whole darn shooting shebang. The only difference between the 4 parts that you have already and what I will post is that the endings will be clipped together a little bit neater, and so you'll be able to flow more smoothly. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful night, and I will end the stream here. If you want to learn to play guitar, you don't, but if you want to, denverguitarorchestra.com is a great place to be. And yeah, we're supposed to wear a mask now if you leave the house. So find somebody who knows how to sew and get yourself some cheap masks. Don't use the N95 ones though. Have a great weekend, you guys. I will see you Sunday night. Thank you, everybody. Ending the stream.